Poppy Playtime just released a brand new VHS tape that tells us a ton about Chapter 3 and so much more. Like the video if you're hyped for Chapter 3, and as a reward, here's my cast sitting on my lap while editing. So basically, this new video was just dropped in the past few hours called Restricted Relocation August 8th, 1995, and the video is absolutely insane. So it starts off with warning us to not watch the tape as a third party had supposedly tampered with it. Afterwards, we get a video guide called the Bigger Bodies Relocation Guide for Employee Training. The first step, according to the video, is to retrieve Giant from Storage B, where we then see a bunch of workers sneak into this area called Storage B to then retrieve none other than Kissy Missy. In the background, if you look closely, we also get to see another look at some of the other bigger bodies, which we'll talk about here in a little. But then moving on to step 2, they tell us to safely secure the Giant, which then shows us them actually restraining down Kissy Missy and even a blueprint on how to restrain them. Step 3 is then to load the Giant onto the train, where we are then shown a crane putting the restrained Kissy Missy onto the train that also has a sign on it saying play care, telling us where they are headed. Step 4 is consult the Bigger Bodies Handbook for contingency plans, but is then interrupted by red text reading loosen the straps binding the Giant, before getting a view of Kissy Missy tied up at the train stop. Step number 5 is to inform the conductor of the intended route, showing us the train conductor actually riding the train along with a couple of unreadable pieces of paper shown on top of it, including the train instructions we find in Chapter 2. After this, we are shown the train shooting through the station with a piece of text hidden here that reads, "The hour of joy is in hand." And then step 6 then reads, "Keep watch of the Giant during transit," before again being interrupted by red text saying, "Release the straps binding the Giant," where we then see more clips of Kissy Missy riding through the train without ever moving, going into step 7 that says, "Deliver Giant to new location," but is interrupted again by the words, "Release the straps." The video cuts to Kissy Missy now looking down at something bolting through the train at very high speeds, before the video cuts and we see none other than Kissy Missy drenched in blood 15 minutes later on the same day, with now dead employees all around her and her straps finally being removed, which is where the video ends. So yeah, this is an absolutely crazy VHS, but the question I'm sure we're all wondering is, what in the world does any of this mean and how does it relate to Chapter 3? Well, to break it down, at the beginning of the VHS, they tell us that the bigger bodies are in a location called Storage B. This is then visually shown in the video where we see Kissy Missy and also PJ Pugapillar along with a smaller version of Mommy Longlegs, both of which are visibly living beings, or at least were based on the blood visible all over their bodies. Now, this location, Storage B, is one of the most important locations in the game. If you watch my last theory video, I talked all about how in the ARG we got a file showing a piece of paper where a different employee named Patty Hall was caught sabotaging the paint machines in the factory, and so they sent her to Storage B to receive further instructions. The same exact place that we see in this VHS tape before she would mysteriously disappear. And it's also the same place I believe Rowan Stoll went to here when he died, which I discussed in my full video on the topic. You should check it out here. But basically, they collect Kissy Missy from this place. However, while they successfully got her onto the train, something began to go horribly wrong, as the tampered with VHS starts to tell us to loosen the straps, where we then see Kissy Missy very obviously looking down at somebody, before, like we said, the video cuts with them at a stop with bodies everywhere and Kissy untrapped once again. Now, what's most important about this part in the VHS is Kissy Missy's movement, or should I say the lack thereof. The only time we ever see her body move despite her being alive is when, before the train stops, we can see her looking down at something right in front of her, before that something clearly starts to kill all the employees and freeze her. You see, Kissy Missy didn't kill these employees, she never even moved from her restraint. Somebody else saved her. More specifically, I think it was the person that she was looking at on this train. But who in the world are they? Well, to put it plain and simple, I think it was the prototype, the guy who we see take Mommy Longlegs' head after she dies in Chapter 2. And this is for a few reasons. For one, in Chapter 2, during different death scenes, we hear two people talking to us. One person who motivates us to keep going, saying things like, "You can die later," before fading into white, and another person who appears to be your enemy, saying things like, "The prototype has saved us," before fading into red. Now, these two end screens, while we can't be sure on who is specifically talking, represents both good and evil. One person who wants to help the employees, whether that be Poppy or something like that, and the other person who actually thanks thanks the prototype and wants the employees to suffer. We see continuity between this red color thanking the prototype for what he did and the red text shown in the tampered tape. And whoever this person is speaking through the red text, they clearly want all the toys to be freed. Plus, we have theorized before that the prototype is actually not an enemy at all. In fact, they are who we believe is the voice in Project Playtime who teaches us as Huggy Wuggy how to attack the employees and to escape the factory before anybody catches them to try and save the toys from being used for the Bigger Bodies Initiative, which, if you didn't know, is an initiative started by the employees in the Project Playtime screening room that was initially designed to create these bigger bodies like Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy to use them as slaves in the factory to save on working costs and hiring other employees. For example, Huggy Wuggy was used as the security guard, Mommy Longlegs was used as the caretaker in the game station, but then there's Kissy Missy. Why was she created and what was her purpose? Well, this is where we start to get into the Chapter 3 rumors. See, in Chapter 2, before the game ends, we could see the train we rode was leading into a place called the Playcare. The place that we know is the setting for Chapter 3, since in the Chapter 3 teaser trailer itself, we can hear them unveiling the opening of the Playcare for the children in the orphanage program we saw in Chapter 1. And what's interesting is that we could see that when Kissy Missy was being moved onto the train, it was en route based on the sign here to none other than the same exact Playcare location. So for whatever reason, they were moving Kissy from Storage B, where she was kept, into this Playcare location to presumably be around the children. So what was her job going to be and why did they bring her there? Well, as of right now, we don't know. And in fact, it's something I don't think we will ever find out until Chapter 3. However, to theorize, I think that she, like the rest of the bigger bodies, was brought into the Playcare for a specific purpose. Perhaps she was there to calm the children down and to make them feel happy from her already lovable nature that we've seen in Chapter 2. I'm not exactly sure. However, while bringing her here on the train to be used for the Playcare, things would start to go horribly wrong. The prototype, or whoever saved Kissy Missy, would come in at this Playcare location and kill all the employees and free Kissy Missy. And in fact, when listening to the video, we can hear what sounds like a crowd of people either cheering or screaming in agony. That of which sounds like the exact same crowd who we hear in the Playcare during Chapter 3. I think that both of these audio clips were taken from the Playcare, but for whatever reason, everybody there was in panic inside of the VHS. So if you just want my honest opinion, I think that this VHS tape is actually when Poppy Playtime shut down. August 8th, 1995. Now, why do I think this? Well, for starters, every single piece of Poppy Playtime media, from Project Playtime to VHS tapes to the ARG and everything in between, only ever dates back to as late as 1993, with the last record of anything happening being when BoogieBot was created in that exact year. So 1995 is, as far as we know, the latest we ever see the factory in operation. Plus, let's just be logical. Assuming this was the prototype or somebody else who killed all these people, which it most likely was, having a bunch of dead bodies hanging around the factory is not a very good look, and clearly something went wrong. Since, like we just said, we can hear people yelling at the Playcare location as if something horrifically tragic just happened. What adds on to this is that during the train sequence, we see a piece of text that very clearly reads, "The hour of joy is in hand." And what does this mean, you may ask? Well, I think the reason that they said the hour of the joy is in hand is meant to be a reference literally to a hand, that of which being the prototype hand which freed Kissy Missy in the VHS, allowing her to escape. And also the thing that started the retaliation and revolution that would cause everybody in the factory to suddenly go missing. And the reason why they say the hour of joy is in hand is saying that the prototype is in control of what happens to all of the toys in the factory, and was the one responsible for freeing them and allowing them to escape. You see, we aren't the good guys in Poppy Playtime. If anything, we are just sidelining the entire story. The prototype saved Kissy Missy from her torment in this VHS and the rest of the toys who lurk the factory to this day. The prototype was their hero, the one who saved them. It's no wonder at this point why the prototype is such an evil villain against the employees, along with the rest of the toys who try and kill us in the game. It's because the employees tried to kill them first, and this tape proves it. Now, speaking overall, what does this mean for Chapter 3? Well, it most likely means that we will revisit the remains of the the play care after this Kissy Missy incident. And while we don't ever get to see Kissy Missy move in the VHS, we may just get to see what was supposed to happen to her in this chapter. Did I just solve chapter 3 and all its contents? Let me know in the comments below. There's a lot more secrets that could mean something, but I couldn't decode them, like these production numbers hidden at the bottom of the VHS. But if we ever find out what those mean, I'll make a video here first, so subscribe to stay updated, and peace.